Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is a show where I look at every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of big Finish audio dramas, one episode a day, 7 days a week. Before we begin, I just wanted to remind everybody that because in 2019, YouTube was caught data mining the information of underage users, therefore violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, aka COPPA. They enacted new policies to scapegoat creators, making me make sure that you have to know that this video is not intended for children. It's not targeted at kids. It is not meant to be viewed by kids. Doctor Who is a family show that kids can watch, but it is not. But this video, as long as all the videos on my channel, are coming at the show from an adult perspective, and as such should be taken with that in mind. That being said, today is the 2nd of April, 2020, and we are taking a look at the third series of the Doctor spin-off, The Diary of River Song, which actually features the 5th Doctor. Now, today we are looking at the first story in this box set, with Nev Fountain's The Lady of the Lake, which is a really, really interesting story. And what I mean is that it is a story that does a bunch of things differently, and essentially creates creates just a really, really solid example of how to write a story of this kind, and to really, really, to really get, just the story to an interesting point, and to a point where you can have it being told, and doing something weird and different. This is a story all about a euthanasia facility in the future, which is fascinating. It's basically you're allowed to, like, if you're at the end of the night in your life and you wish to die in whatever way you really, really want, is that they is that they really, really give you they allow us to create a different idea, and this different, like, sort of setting for the story to take place. So you have fantasy, sci-fi, like all the genres, all the different things going on, and essentially being created here at this facility. And that is just one. It's fascinating to me that this is what the story does here. Is that it creates something different, and something very, very very, very odd for the story to do. Is that we where you create the you create this sort of scenario where, and like, you have each different little time zone, because that is what you have, is you have a totally different time zone waiting for you, just right there. And it's really interesting just to watch as this time zone changes. Um, you know, does create create just um just create a story that is fascinating. Um, like it's fascinating because River herself is coming right off of the Battle of Demon's Run, so um, you have River, who is essentially dealing with runaways from Demon's Run, some of the experiments from Demon's Run, which is already an interesting little idea, because these experiments are sort of people who can regenerate. You have these two characters, Tarn and Lake, um, who all who all sort of create, who are all created, and you have Lake basically killing Tarn, forcing them to regenerate, and basically to experiment, and you have what is a really solid. It creates a really solid start to the box set, because you have Neb Fountain doing that good mix of a totally insane premise, mixed with some dark storytelling. Like it's a River, like eventually regenerates. Like the entire story builds up to regenerate into this character Lily, who has been traveling with River and been killed throughout this facility, who just ends her life and by Lake. So it's this self-fulfilling prophecy, which gives Alex Kingston a really good chance to get a really touching scene, realizing how the story ends, and how things really can end here. It's something that Alex Kingston just excels at overall, and can really just, you get to see what she has, what River is capable of, as well as just the care, because then you go to this bit where she gets actually rescued by the Doctor, the fifth Doctor, who shows up at the end of the story here. You also have Death, doing this reenactment of the Seventh Seal, and just a lot of things all about this cult that really works. And River's initial reactions with the Fifth Doctor are great. They are just a really solid, solid way of doing the story. And Neb Fountain is just excellent at what he does. And so you start, you start to see where the story can go, and you see him actually traveling with this character called Brooke, who is, you don't really get an introduction to yet, because it's a totally different thing. It's very much just a different story. So overall, The Lady of the Lake actually is a fantastic start to the box set. I wouldn't it is really solid. A couple of pacing issues here and there, but overall, I would probably give The Lady in the Lake a 9 out of 10. Alright, it is the 3rd of April 2020, and I just finished listening to A Requiem for the Doctor, the second episode in the Diary of River Song. And this is interesting. It's good. I enjoyed it. It's a solid story. But it's very weird because it's written by Jacqueline Rayner, who is an author I love. She's written, I think this is the first story of hers on the marathon that we're covering. I think, yeah, because she wrote for a lot of early Big Finish. It hasn't written a lot of Doctor Who for now. She's written some Benny for them recently, and I think she just did a story in the new Donna Noble set. But she's written a bunch of audio and a bunch of novels. So, but her more, the Doctor she writes for the most usually is actually 6. So we'll actually see more from her when we cover the 6th Doctor. Because that's basically just what she's done. Now, this story is interesting because it takes place, it's a historical one. The Doctor, River, and Brooke are in 1791. It's one of the stories where you have, where you have this entire story deal with, where basically there is a bunch of stuff being done with, with this idea of Brooke being kind of evil by the end. Like, she tries to poison the Doctor. There's this whole story about about women poisoning their husbands. All essentially being jokes and things at the expense of River. It's one of those things where you have such a different thing, and the story is essentially a mystery, building up to the the story. It's something different, something amazing, and something that I think is really, really clever. Like there is a lot of really, really, clever stuff in this story overall, and in this episode. Alex Kingston and Peter Davison are excellent together, and I like Brooke as a character. She's nice as sort of the prototypical companion, and her sort of acidic relationship with her acidic relationship with River is fun, and it's funny. It's it's a different type. It's a different type of bit that the story does. Is that you have when you have these characters moving around, and the big issue is that it's this is a mystery, but it's kind of tonally dissonant. It doesn't know if it wants to be a serious mystery or over the top. Over the top. It starts really over the top with this whole with a bunch of stuff dealing with a bunch of stuff dealing with Mozart and playing around with the idea of these ideas of like playing of the you know of just like meeting Mozart and doing things. It's it's doing something different because of that, but it's not necessarily doing it's not doing something normal. Like it's doing something weird, and it just feels kind of out of place with the rest of the set. Like it just doesn't sound right. You know, it's a very, very different things. Uh, you know, it's a very, very different type of a story, and I didn't. It's not bad. It's a good story. It's just not necessarily what you come to expect from Rainer. And it's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable bit of fluff. But after the set started out with something very thematically deep and playing around with really, really fun ideas, you just kind of don't have the entire story working as it should, perhaps, because this story really should be working with new new ideas and trying to keep that momentum going. But overall, I'll have to give A Requiem for the Doctor a 7 out of 10. All right, it is a day. It's the 4th of April 2020, and I just finished listening to the third story in the Diary of River Song Series 3, My Dinner with Andrew, which is an absolutely bonkers story, which I think is great. Like this is the great kind of bonkers. It's the here's a bunch of insanity, like uh like there are um yeah it's a very, very different um it's a very different type of thing. um you know uh it's it's River. One, this plays around with time travel. Second, Madame Kavarian from Series 6 is in this, played by Frances Barber, who is excellent in her role. Um, it's this is a story where uh, you get to see this this entire story sort of come around to um, just sort of do like a lot of different things, and you play around with. There's this guy Andrew who looks like the Fifth Doctor but isn't the Fifth Doctor, who basically builds up to him getting killed in the Fifth Doctor's place, um, because um, this is a point where the Doctor kind of needs to see, you need to see like everything done. Um, it's one of those stories where everything goes on to this, it goes all around to be just telling a completely different, you know it's just the completely different area of storytelling. Like, we're at this time traveling restaurant outside of time, so being outside time, outside of time, you get to see, a lot of, you get to see a lot of the story just sort of, where just a lot of the story changes things, and you get to see like all of these different sort of changes done with, you know where everything is, whereas everything is just totally insane. It's big. It's a big story because you have three rivers going around. You have Brooke being evil, Brooke then regenerating, into a second incarnation. You have the Doctor Andrew, a robot waiter that looks like the Doctor, and a bunch of just insanity. Like, this is one of those stories where everything just blows up. You kind of have to experience it to really wrap your head around why it works, and just how everything, you know it's a very, very different sort of things. um you know it's it's a very, very, very different sort of things, um where you have, you know um it's, it's doing all of this very, 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 very different story. For instance, Alex Kingston is just excellent at it. Like, it's kind of doing a mix of The Crystal Bucephalus meets The Restaurant at the End of the Universe meets the end of Series 6. And let's be honest, it actually has this, it doesn't take itself seriously, which is nice. John Dorney does an excellent job in sort of picking out the fun stuff. Like, there's a jab at the fact that, the end of Series 6 is kind of dumb. Like, let's be real here. The end of Series 6 is kind of a bit of a dumb ending for a story. Like, it really isn't really a, a it's just it's different, and I think that it is a really really solid way of um, you know, a really 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 good um, um, a really good episode overall, and just it shows it shows what um, where you really can see and enjoy this 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 story. Like it's something where you wouldn't necessarily get to see everything. You get to see it in a way that just works. You know, it's doing something so different. So overall, um, I would have to give uh, I would have to give the um, you know I'd have to give My Dinner with Andrew, because it does a lot of emotional stuff too. Like it's still um, one of those things where you see the entire story for the way um, for the way that it is. So overall, I would have to give My Dinner with Andrew a perfect 10 out of 10. All right, it is the 5th of um, the 5th of April 2020. I just finished listening to The Furies, which is the final story in the Diary of a River Song volume series 3, not volume. These are series, um, and this story is great. So it's written by Matt Fitton, um, and the Doctor's in it, but he's in it very little. Like he doesn't do. He's the old stereotype of the companion becoming a damsel in distress. Well, the Doctor's the damsel in distress in this one, so he's barely in it, which is actually fine because of what this story is trying to do. Like the entire story is dealing um, with the entire, you know, the entire plot being dealt with, um, dealt with this idea. Um, Basically, it's sort of doing if Doctor Who did the Oresteia. Um, the Oresteia being an ancient um, 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 you know, there's there is a lot. Um, there's a lot going on with the idea of Madame Kavarian seeing Furies, and these Furies are basically the ghosts that haunt her. Like she's killed the Doctor not once but twice. She has a river there, um, and she has her other experiments. Brooke being the only one that has a name. The other ones are designated H1, H2, and O, and are played by Francesca uh, Zuwell, kind of sounds like it might be a fake name. This is the only Big Finish story that this actor has been in. So like it sounds like it might be a a fake name, but it probably isn't. But like, and Pippa Bennett-Warner, who is does quite a few Big Finish, actually. I think she's big in the Gallifrey series. Like she I think she plays Livia in Gallifrey and in the War Master series. So you have a good idea. She's definitely fun to watch. She's definitely, they're all interesting characters. O is the one played by Bennett-Warner, who is just an idiot. That's kind of the point of the character, that the character's dumb. I can words. But yeah, it's a... but this is like a story all exploring River's upbringing, sort of through her night shadows of her past, and just like looking at what she was and what she's become. And I think it's fascinating. Matt Fitton did an excellent job here of really making River, not only making River sympathetic, but just giving River the chance really to show off that, yeah, she is, she is the this totally changed character. And you do have, it's also just an episode that actually decides to acknowledge the whole fact that in Series 6 of the Revived series, we don't actually ever get any closure for Madame Kavarian. Like, she fails. We figure out how her plans fail, of course, but we don't actually get, we don't get a conclusion. We just get oh, they failed. That's kind of it. Have fun. All right, next episode, we're going on. Bye. It's not necessarily, that's not necessarily what you do in writing a story. You don't just go oh, and that's the story's over. Goodbye. So, and clearly Fitton has fun for it. Has fun with it. Is clearly enjoying this whole stuff with the whole plot threads with these characters that are just really, really fun, and really, really enjoyable. Obviously, it's just a really, really fun sort of plot thread thing. And Frances Barber is excellent as Madame Kavarian. And Nina Toussant-White is excellent as Brooke, as the second incarnation of Brooke. And you obviously get the idea that, okay, these all were given the same genetic code as River, so they would eventually regenerate into an Alex Kingston clone, which is funny. And you really get to see this nice end. This set really brings to a really, really, it's just brought to a really, really solid conclusion, because of what it does and what it's trying to do. The story that it is telling. And I really enjoy just watching it all happen, and watching the characters interact and have fun. It's something that you don't always get to see. That fun nature things as things turn around. It's not perfect, but overall it's thematically deep. It basically adapts the Oresteia, or at least it takes inspiration from the Oresteia to tell a really, really good story. So overall, I would give The Furies a 9 out of 10. That being said, we have the scores now to them out to give the Diary River Song Series 3 a final score of 8.75 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Let's get a conversation going. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Of course, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And join me next time when we start a look at the trilogy of Fifth Doctor Lost stories, with the first story to be written and submitted by Barbara Clegg with The Elite.